However, to garnish my secret purpose with a plausible pretext, I told Dr. Quilty that in hope of alleviating facial neuralgia, I had decided to have all my teeth removed. What would a complete set of dentures cost? How long would the process take, assuming we fixed our first appointment for some time in November? Where was his famous nephew now? Would it be possible to have them all out in one dramatic session? A white-smocked, grey-haired man with a crew cut and the big flat cheeks of a politician, Dr. Quilty perched on the corner of his desk, one foot dreamily and seductively rocking as he launched on a glorious long-range plan. He would first provide me with provisional plates until the gum settled. Then he would make me a permanent set. He would like to have a look at that mouth of mine. He wore perforated pied shoes. He had not visited with the rascal since 1946, but supposed he could be found at his ancestral home, Grim Road, not far from Parkington. It was a noble dream. His foot rocked, his gaze was inspired. It would cost me around $600. He suggested he take measurements right away and make the first set before starting operations. My mouth to him was a splendid cave full of priceless treasures, but I denied him entrance. "No," I said. "On second thoughts I shall have it all done by Dr. Molnar. His price is higher, but he, of course, is a much better dentist than you." I do not know if any of my readers will ever have a chance to say that. It is a delicious dream feeling. Claire's uncle remained sitting on the desk, still looking dreamy, but his foot had stopped push-rocking the cradle of rosy anticipation. On the other hand, his nurse, a skeleton-thin, faded girl with the tragic eyes of unsuccessful blondes, rushed after me so as to be able to slam the door in my wake. Push the magazine into the butt. Press home until you hear or feel the magazine catch engage. Delightfully snug. Capacity, 8 cartridges. Full blued. Aching to be discharged. A gas station attendant in Parkington explained to me very clearly how to get to Grim Road. Wishing to be sure Quilty would be at home, I attempted to ring him up, but learned that his private telephone had recently been disconnected. Did that mean he was gone? I started to drive to Grim Road, 12 miles north of the town. By that time, night had eliminated most of the landscape, and as I followed the narrow, winding highway, a series of short posts, ghostly white, with reflectors, borrowed my own lights to indicate this or that curve. I could make out a dark valley on one side of the road and wooded slopes on the other, and in front of me, like derelict snowflakes, moths drifted out of the blackness into my probing aura. At the 12th mile, as foretold, a curiously hooded bridge sheathed me for a moment, and beyond it a whitewashed rock loomed on the right, and a few car lengths further, on the same side, I turned off the highway up gravelly Grim Road. For a couple of minutes all was dank, dark, dense forest, then Pava Manor. A wooden house with a turret arose in a circular clearing. Its windows glowed yellow and red, its drive was cluttered with half a dozen cars. I stopped in the shelter of the trees and abolished my lights to ponder the next move quietly. He would be surrounded by his henchmen and whores. I could not help seeing the inside of that festive and ramshackle castle in terms of troubled teens, a story in one of her magazines. Vague orgies, a sinister adult with pineal cigar, drugs, bodyguards. At least he was there. I would return in the torpid morning. Gently I rolled back to town in that old faithful car of mine which was serenely, almost cheerfully working for me. My Lolita. There was still a 3-year-old bobby pin of hers in the depths of the glove compartment. There was still that stream of pale moths siphoned out of the night by my headlights. Dark barns still propped themselves up here and there by the roadside. People were still going to the movies. While searching for night lodgings, I passed a drive-in, in a Selenian glow, truly mystical in its contrast with the moonless and massive night. On a gigantic screen slanting away among the drowsy fields, a thin phantom raised a gun. both he and his arm reduced to tremulous dishwater by the oblique angle of that receding world, and the next moment a row of trees shut off the gesticulation. I left Insomnia Lodge next morning around 8 and spent some time in Parkington. Visions of bungling the execution kept obsessing me. Thinking that perhaps the cartridges in the automatic had gone stale during a week of inactivity, I removed them and inserted a fresh batch. Such a thorough oil bath did I give Chum that now I couldn't get rid of the stuff. I bandaged him up with a rag like a maimed limb and used another rag to wrap up a handful of spare bullets. A thunderstorm accompanied me most of the way back to Grim Road, but when I reached Pava Manor, the sun was visible again, burning like a man, and the birds screamed in the drenched and steaming trees. The elaborate and decrepit house seemed to stand in a kind of daze, reflecting, as it were, my own state, for I could not help realizing as my feet touched the springy and insecure ground that I had overdone the alcoholic stimulation business. A guardedly ironic silence answered my bell. The garage, however, was loaded with his car, a black convertible for the nonce. I tried the knocker. A nobody. With a petulant snarl I pushed the front door, and, how nice, it swung open as in a medieval fairy tale. Having softly closed it behind me, I made my way across a spacious and very ugly hall, peered into an adjacent drawing-room, noticed a number of used glasses growing out of the carpet, and decided that Master was still asleep in the master bedroom.